Hello and welcome to this presentation. Okay, so there's been a lot of buzzwords flying around. I'm sure many of us, if we've been paying attention, would have noticed. You'd have been hearing words like climate change, carbon capture, net zero, carbon credits, UN SDG goals, sustainability, and the list goes on and on and on. So, in this presentation, I will try to simplify these terms. I would give an introduction into energy transition. I will try my best. Just note the word try. There's a lot happening around the globe now, particularly around energy. And so that's what this presentation is going to focus on. So I'm sure we're familiar with the UN, that's the United Nations. And we may know or we may not, but now you know that they've always been a strong advocate for global energy transition. And they have always emphasized the importance of achieving sustainable development and combating climate change. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the term climate change, and perhaps you haven't. So, climate change basically is just a change in the average weather patterns that have come to define the Earth's climate, basically. So that's what climate change is. And now you know that the UN, they've been a strong advocate for this global energy transition, trying to focus on sustainable ways of combating climate change. And that now brings us to the UN SDG goals. That's Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. So, okay, what this is all about is just an agenda by the United Nations with the aim to end poverty, inequality, and majorly to protect the planet, ensuring that everyone, you and I, enjoy good health, enjoy justice, and prosperity, basically. So this UN SDG goals are 17 in number in total. You can see that on this slide. So we have from the first one, no poverty, to the 17th, which says partnerships for the goals. So today we'll just focus on this number 7, as you can see there. It states affordable and clean energy. Since our focus on this presentation is energy transition, so that is the UN SDG goal 7, and it calls for ensuring that everyone has access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. That's by the year 2030. Okay, so in this presentation, I'll be focusing on energy transition. So I would try to break down this concept, what it is all about really, and touch on some buzzwords like I've mentioned earlier that have been flying all around. Okay, so now that we've set the background, let's move on. So, to a layman, and just to break down all the complexities, to simply define what energy transition is, it is basically the change or shift from one energy source to another. Okay, so like I said, energy transition is the shift from one energy source to another. Okay, you may be asking, what is energy source, or what are the various sources of energy we have? Okay, so we have everybody would know this, solar energy. That's energy from the sun. That's a perfect example of energy source. So we have the sun, and of course solar panels are getting very popular now. People generating energy from the sun as a source. So that's one source of energy, the sun, and we call it solar energy. Also quite popular is the fossil, energy from fossil. That's the fuels. Yeah, so like petrol that we have, it's another form of energy. We use it to power our vehicles, our generator sets, etc. So that's another energy source. So I've given examples of those energy sources. And very, very importantly, it's important to note the difference between the two. So I'll just put the difference out now. In the terms using, I'm sure this is another buzzword you might have been hearing, renewable and non-renewable. So from the terms renewable, that's what can be renewed. So when you deplete something, when you use up something that can be replaced, that's renewable. And obviously the sun, the solar energy is renewable because you can replace it. Like I gave the example of the solar panels that are getting so popular now. Once you use up the energy you've derived from the sun via the solar panel, you can wait for the next day or for the sun to appear the next time and recharge to replace what had been used previously. So that makes it renewable. Then you also have non-renewable energy sources. So that's the example I gave using the fossil fuel. They fall into the category of non-renewables because once you use it up, it will take millions of years, and that's a very, very long time, like not in one's lifetime, for it to be replaced. So that makes it non-renewable. So once you use it up, once you've extracted once the crude oil has been explored and we've used it up in our vehicles or generating sets, it's not replaced immediately. It's non-renewable. So that's a very those are words that we need to be familiar with in this energy transition phase. Okay, so I'll move on to our main topic, energy transition, like the trend around the globe and why the buzz, why the fuzz, why is everybody so particular about it's not a new thing per se, but there's a lot to say. What's different now? So the difference now is the fact that this energy transition is global. Like everyone around the globe is interested in it. So it's quite different from the way it has been done in the past. It's different based on the scale and the scope. It's massive, like looking at the scale. It cuts across almost all industries, multiple aspects of the energy system, including it cuts across almost all industries. It also cuts across multiple aspects of the energy system. It includes energy generation, the distribution of energy, also the way energy is being stored and the way it is being consumed. So that's a very important thing to note on what makes this energy transition different from the way it had been done in the past. Also, a major driver, which we'll discuss later on in this presentation, is climate change. So that's like what is driving this energy transition is the fact that we want to combat climate change. So also the technology involved in this energy transition is quite different from the way it had been done in the past. We have a lot of technology, advanced technology, particularly in the renewable space. You can see, like I mentioned, the solar, a lot of technology coming up, how to save the energy from the sun. Yeah, so that is also a major difference from the way it had been done in the past. Also now, in terms of the policy and regulation, it's quite different from the way it had been done in the past. So there's a lot of recognition on the need of policies and regulatory frameworks to support this transitioning. So that's major. Another major difference based on the scale of this transitioning, there's a lot of awareness and support. Everybody, or almost everybody, is getting energy aware and giving their support one way or the other. Yes, so this current energy transition is quite different from the way it had been done in the past. It's more complex, yet can be simplified based on understanding than the way it was in the past. It's more urgent because of the need to combat climate change. and it is more interconnected than the past. So a lot of industries are involved now. Yeah, so those are the major differences. Okay, so the shift is a global, yeah, like I said, it's global, and everyone is like almost on the same page, making decisions to move from non-renewable energy sources to renewable energy sources, because it is known that that is a sustainable way to go. So I would still touch on what sustainability means as we go ahead in this presentation. Okay, so on this slide is just going to show us energy transition through time, and just to let us know that energy transition is not a today's thing. It's a phase that has been ongoing through the years, so it's not really a new phenomenon, but it's quite different now, like we discussed in the previous slide, the differences between the transitioning now from the way it was done in the past. Okay, so this slide is just touching on energy transition through time. So yeah, we can see the good old days, the Stone Age. Look at the energy source there. Yeah. Then, the industrial evolution came in, just to the transition from the Stone Age to the industrial evolution. That's the 28th century. You can see the change in energy sources. Then that's evolved, or is currently evolving, to where we want to be in the future. That's 21st century. One thing we should quickly note and take into account on this slide is the fact that energy transition, this is not a linear progression. So if you look at from the good old days, that's the Stone Age, to the industrial evolution, that's when we began to use the non-renewables, the fossil fuels and all. There's an overlap. So it's not a total overhaul of the Stone Age. Of course, some people still make use of energy sources like this, but still we evolved into the industrial evolution where we made use of fossil fuels, that's non-renewables, and we're going forward to the use of renewables to this one. Yeah, going forward in the 21st century to the use of renewables. So there's an overlap. There's this saying that the Stone Age did not end because of the absence of stones. No, there was a need to evolve. There was a need for new energy sources, and that was why we moved into the industrial revolution. And that's the same need that has arisen now for us to go further into into renewables going forward. So it's not as if we are running out of fossil fuels per se. No, at least not immediately. It's still going to take a very long time before we deplete all our the crude oil reserves. Yeah. So, but there is a current need to transit into renewable energy sources, and that is what has been happening so far around the globe. And as that evolution is happening, we still need to we still need energy, at least for things to go on. So we cannot totally dump the fossil fuels being in use. But what I can say is, yes, you can see the notes there, is as we shift in energy sources, there is a need for us to utilize the old energy sources more responsibly. So as we currently transition into renewable energy sources, even within the non-renewables, there are actions being put in place to utilize the non-renewables more responsibly. So that's what I can say. So this it's not a total overhaul, and the transition is not a linear progression. Okay. Okay, so yeah, this is where we want to be in the future. We want clean energy, clean air, better health. According to the UN, most prosperity for everyone, good health, no poverty. That's where we want to be in the 21st century. That's our dream world, basically. And we're hoping that the awareness and energy transition going on would eventually lead us where we want to be and that is here. Okay, so moving on. It's very important to state the key drivers for this move, for this energy transition. That is the that factors that will enable us achieve this energy transition. So the key drivers for this transition, and number one, it cannot be overemphasized, is climate change. The need to address the challenges of climate change. So that's the number one factor for this transitioning. A lot of factors have been mentioned as the cause of climate change, but the number one I believe is the use of fossil fuel. We cannot overemphasize. I'm sure a lot of research work has been done to conclude that the use of this fossil fuel has resulted in significant has resulted significantly in a lot of environmental impacts: pollution, air pollution, water pollution, habitat destruction, eventually resulting into climate change. So this has led us to clamor for better energy sources that will be more sustainable for the future. And that's why there's a clamor to move from non-renewables to renewable energy, because we believe renewable energy sources would be better for our air and water, will not cause the damages the fossil fuels, the non-renewables, have caused. The major factor for those non-renewables is the carbon factor. So from the second bullet point, as you can see that the burning of fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, leading to global warming. Yes, so carbon is is almost synonymous to fossil fuels. So when fossil fuels are burnt, the combustion of fossil fuels, they emit carbon into the atmosphere, and those are the greenhouse gases, and those greenhouse gases affect the atmosphere, causing air pollution, all sorts of pollution, and eventually climate change. They lead to global warming and cause climate change. So, and as a result, this has caused a lot of countries to presently to start investing in renewable energy technologies, start promoting policies, all to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels and to mitigate climate change. Yeah, that's a major factor for the current energy transition. Another factor is energy security. Yeah, from the statement energy security, you always want there to be like a plan B, right? Like a backup. So when a plan fails, you want to be able to fall back on your plan B. So that's just explaining this basically. You don't want to be totally reliant on one energy source. You want to have alternatives. You want to be able to make choices. They said variety is the spice of life. I think something like that. Yeah. So you want to be able to make choices. So in a situation where the concentration is majorly on fossil fuel, once a giant producing country decides to add its supply on fossil fuels, it affects the general economy of the world. I don't think that's is fair enough. So there should be options. There should be choices. So even if the plan A decides to flop, there should be other choices that around where you can fall on plan B. Yeah. So removing the attention from fossil fuels to other sources, and yeah, that's another factor for this energy transition, energy security. Yeah, the second point, fossil fuels are finite resources and their extraction and transportation poses risk to the supply chain. Yeah, just like what I explained. Yeah, so they're finite resources. That means finite, like they're limited, specific. It doesn't go on and on and on. They have an end, to state simply. Unlike the renewables that you can keep you can keep getting every other day. Fossil fuels, once they are used up, that is the end. And their extractions, yeah, they pose a lot of risk. So once you're not able to extract, it causes a lot of struggle down the supply chain. So basically, there should be other choices, alternatives, options, basically. The second. Okay, this has taken us to define the terms or shed more light on what sustainability and circularity means. So I've used the term during this presentation. I've used the term sustainable a couple of times. Like I mentioned, the renewable energy sources are just more sustainable than the non-renewable energy sources. From the word sustainable, sustainable just means something that can be maintained, something you can define, something that can be maintained basically. Yeah. And you definitely cannot maintain fossil fuels like we saw in the last slide. They are finite, so they are limited, specific. That cannot be maintained. Once you use it up, that's the end. You cannot replace over time. Also, the term, one of the buzzwords that I've been flying about, is sustainability. And simply put, sustainability is just a way to make sure that our actions now don't affect the future. So as we go about our daily activities, trying to cater for our everyday needs, we go about those activities ensuring that we don't prevent the future generations from enjoying what we're enjoying, from being able to meet their own needs based on actions we've taken now. Okay, I hope I explained that well. So I'll just read this. It's about making sure we can meet our needs today without harming the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. It's like using resources wisely so that there's enough for everyone now and in the future. Yeah, so for instance, if I want to take water badly now, like I'm thirsty, and I decide to drill a well. Okay, in my country here we have wells, so I drill a well and I feel like the water is not pure enough, and I think that I could just pour a chemical into it straight up to purify the water for my own consumption, not taking into account that chemical infiltrating into the subsurface. Okay, I think I'm going a little complex here. Let me think of another example. Okay, so because I want to build a house now, for instance, I decide to. Okay, so I bought a plot of an acre of land, which had a lot of forestation, and I just decided to fell all the trees, like burn, because I need to build my own house. That's not sustainable. So we know that trees are good sources of oxygen. They help bring balance to the environment. So the more trees we fell, the more imbalance we're causing to the environment. So that's not sustainable enough. So there's, I think, okay, I'm not sure, I need to confirm. There's this saying that for every tree you fell, maybe you should plant, is it 2 more or 5 more? There's something like that. Yeah, because you just want to keep maintaining that balance in the environment. So you have to keep making conscious efforts and backing on sustainable practices to ensure that, okay, now because I want to build where I will live now, create an abode for myself and my family, I would not affect the environment, depriving the future generations from enjoying good air, good weather, just because of my current needs. Okay, I think I've shed a little light into that. Yeah, so that's what sustainability really means, and it's a very important part to note during this energy transitioning. So you transition, so it's not just about moving from one energy source to another, but it's about doing it, embarking on sustainable practices while doing it. Yeah. Another very, very important term to note during this transition is secularity. And I don't think, in my own opinion, I think this secularity is not taken into account. It's not gaining popularity as much as I would love it to gain, because I think it's very vital in this energy transitioning. Yeah, because basically, from the term circularity, imagine a circle going round. They said what goes around comes around, basically. So it's the concept is just about reusing, recycling, reducing waste. Basically, they call it the 3 R's. So okay. From what we can see here, imagine a world where instead of throwing things away, you find a way to reuse those things, or you turn them into something new. So yeah, and this helps reduce waste, and it's a form. It's a form of. At the end of the day, it's a sustainable. It's why am I stuttering? Okay, at the end of the day, it falls under sustainability. So you can not say secularity. What I'm trying to say, secularity is a way to be sustainable. So it's a means to being sustainable, basically. I think I have that in the next slide. Yes. So there are a lot of steps that could be taken. There are a lot of aspects for sustainability, and circularity is one of them. And I really, really love the concept of circularity, especially in this energy transitioning. Yeah, okay, I'll going in maybe in more presentations to come when I start focusing on the energy transitioning in the transportation phase. I would shed more light on that. Yeah, so from here you can see that there are other aspects of circularity. You can practice sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture. That's one way to to include sustainability practices in the agricultural space. You can in the biodiversity conservation. Yeah, you can. It's an aspect of sustainability. In the renewable energy space, you can practice that. Climate resilience is also a way you can perform sustainability. Social equity, sustainable consumption and production. Yeah, so all these are just aspects of sustainability. And circularity, or the circular economy, as some people like to call it, is also an aspect of sustainability. Okay, so all my rambling, all what I've been saying from the start of this presentation, how does it concern you and I? Basically, so it concerns us in the fact that there's a chance to improve our quality of life when we embrace sustainable practices, especially during this energy transitioning. So we can have access to cleaner air, water, just live a better life for now and our future generation. Also, there's the opportunity to save cost by, especially if you look at the circularity where you want to reuse things. Yeah, so you save costs like that. You don't have to always throw things away, looking for funds to get new things. So that's a way to save cost. And definitely, when you improve from improving your quality of life, like getting access to cleaner air, you cannot the health benefits cannot be far-fetched. There are lots of health benefits. There'll be fewer toxins in the atmosphere. From the previous slide, you saw sustainable agriculture. So if you practice that, really, you eat healthier. There'll be more healthy foods in circulation. So you're breathing in clean air, eating in healthier foods void of toxins and chemicals. So a lot of health benefits are there. Definitely, how it concerns us again is there'll be a lot of job opportunities. So if you're familiar or currently in the job search space, you would have seen that there's a need currently for a lot of sustainability manager. So a lot of new jobs springing up around the place. So this has opened up a lot of job opportunities. There are lots of greener jobs now, looking for green technicians, people with there's a lot of jobs on carbon management. So it has really opened a new industry and job opportunities have emerged from this transition. Okay, so the global impact. Yeah. So they say little drops of water, right? So your actions, my actions, they all accumulate to contribute to a larger global effort, combating climate change, reducing waste, and protecting our natural resources. Basically, I think it's a win-win for everyone, for you and I. Okay, so we've seen the ways it affects you and I individually. So, how does it affect our industry? If you remember, I think the very first slide where I touched on what makes this transition, energy transition, different from the way it was done in the past. You would, if you recollect, where I mentioned in terms of the scale and scope, and I mentioned that the current energy transition touches multiple aspects, like it's aspects. Now it's multifaceted, and it cuts across, I would say, all industries really. Yeah. So now we'll see how it affects our industry. So here listed, we can see the energy industry, the transportation, manufacturing industry, agriculture, finance, technology, retail, construction, healthcare, and tourism. If I've missed any industry, you can inform me maybe in the comment section. But yeah, basically this summarizes the industries we have available, and we can already see how it affects our industries. In the construction, we can see including green building practices, sustainable materials, and energy efficient design. So you can see how you can incorporate sustainable practices in the construction industry. I saw a news lately on the news about Lafarge Cement also with a new technology or a new product on waterproof cement. Well, I don't know how that falls with sustainability, but I'll do my research and find out. I'm sure it can't be far from what we're talking about. In the agriculture sector, there are a lot of agriculture practices that promote sustainability. Um, there's this hydroponics practice, etc., all promoting sustainable um, practices. Yeah, you can find out if you are really interested in that. So that's, yeah. Then one that is dear to me is the transportation one, and where we are trying to transition to the use of electric vehicles, like moving away from fossil fuels really. So all what we've been talking about in, yeah, from non-renewables to renewable. So we're trying to move from fossil fuels powering our vehicles to electric vehicles, where we use batteries using alternate or energy sources, like renewable energy sources, to power our vehicles. Yeah, so basically you can see how it affects our industries. Yeah. Okay, so finally, well, at this point, I'm sure you've gained a good understanding of what energy transition is and what it entails. You've also gotten an understanding of what non-renewable energy sources are and renewable energy sources. You also have an understanding of, finally, well, at this point, I'm sure you've gained a good understanding of what energy transition is and what it entails. You've also gotten an understanding of what non-renewable energy sources are and renewable energy sources. You also have an understanding of how sustainability is very important in our current clamor for cleaner energy in this energy transitioning process that is currently ongoing, and the different aspects of sustainability like circularity. You've gained good insight on that. So it will be interesting to know what practices you are adopting towards this energy transitioning. with regards to keeping the planet safe for future generations? I would really love to know. Please share. And also look forward to subsequent